Well, I'm at the gas station getting water. Amazing. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that getting water, buying water was going to be so expensive compared even to gas, even to the present prices? Well, back at the house we are having a lot of noise and mess because we have what in my background I would have called a bulldozer, but here they call it a front loader. So we got the front loader in, and it's pretending to be a bulldozer. So, and it's leveling out the ground. It's a complete mess. I don't know how the man is able to visualize what is needed. He needs to grade the land. He needs to take out a lot of soil, and it has to be put in the right place. The low bits have got to be raised, and the high bits have got to be taken down. So that's what we're doing at the moment. That's my safety belt, and I know I shouldn't be putting it on while I'm driving. Okay, so I wanted to talk about what I'm calling the 5-year dream project. It's a dream because when we started it, it really was just a dream. And what I found is that when you, first of all, you have the dream, and then you make a goal. When you realize that maybe the dream is possible. Now, you only realize that the dream is possible once you put a foot out and put a footstep into the journey towards the goal. Now, I'm no great motivational speaker, but I have observed that one of the things that is evident as soon as you start to do anything at all is the moment that you get out of someone else's comfort zone. Now, you hear an awful lot about the comfort zone. Yes, I'm stuck in my comfort zone. He's stuck in his comfort zone. What about I'm stuck in someone else's comfort zone? That's one of the things that's really important. And an example that I always use, sorry I'm boring sometimes, but maybe you haven't heard this. I did a lot of work for a man in the UK. When I came home, I came back from a trip to Australia where I stayed for almost 6 months, just doing stuff which would allow me to make a living and pay for my expenses while I was there. I actually sold cars, and that will give the haters a lovely talking point now. Oh yeah, it's just a second-hand car dealer, isn't he? So anyway, I came back and I just couldn't face the idea of going to work in a band again. There is a let me say a love-hate relationship between members of a band and the band leader, because the band leader, especially in the more successful bands, gets such a lot more money than the people who play. Now, I'm getting off on a tangent, but that's usually what I do. Band leaders, while we're on the subject, are often failed musicians. They're usually, I don't know, saxophone players or maybe a trumpet player, and they never made it as a musician, but they didn't allow music to get in the way of business. So that was the lesson I learned there, and I didn't want to go back into that when I came from Australia. So I started to do contracting, and it happened very quickly because I'd always had an aptitude for that, to do contracting, not to do contracting, but to be a kind of a jack of all trades. I'm no great skilled man at any real thing. I have an eye for design, and I earned my living for my kid and I as a single parent when I went to California, because I found that I had an eye for doing distressed furniture, which was very popular back then in California. So that's how I made a living, not a great living, but I did make a living. So when it came to working, I put a little ad. You could do this in the UK. Put an ad saying that I could do odd jobs around the house. And when people met me, for some strange reason, they felt that confident or trusted me. And so I got to do all different kinds of things. And I became more proficient than when I started, which is ironic because sometimes I would take a job that I didn't know how to do. I didn't know how to do it. I wasn't sure what to do. And this brings me to part of when you're taking on a project which you're not sure about, you're never ready. The one thing that sticks out all the time to me is that nobody is ever ready to do what they do. And if they are completely ready, then whatever they're doing is so far below their skill that they're probably wasting their time. They're not trying. What's the expression? If you're not making mistakes, you're really not trying to do hard enough projects. Well, I found that people, if I took on a job, people would actually tell me how it should be done. I remember standing there wondering how I'm going to do a particular job, and the customer came in and said, so I guess you're going to do step 1, 2, 3. In order to do this job, you'll have to do the prep work first, won't you? Of course, yes, I will, sir. And then after that, you're going to go ahead and do the finish work, and then onto the painting. Absolutely, I said, and I'd taken it all in. And that made me think about how asking someone else whether you should do something is actually the wrong thing to do. Because people will give you, when they give you advice, you're really handing your future into them as their pupil. So you're going to be their student. So asking advice can sometimes be very counterproductive. And when people give you advice, they will give you the sum total of their own wins and loses. Whatever they were successful at, whatever they were a failure at. And they'll give you advice that's based on that. Now, when I was actually working as a jobbing carpenter, doing kitchens, lowering ceilings, doing some plastering, which my friend Steve came on the job, on one job where I had to do some plastering, and he came and he showed me how to do it. And the next time I did it myself. And I had an aptitude. Now, that was a man who could have me being a success and told me how to do it, and that was it. When it came to electrics, I had two people. At first, I had two people that I talked to about a job. Now, at one particular point, I was doing a kitchen, and in the UK, you have to put in what's called a ring main, and the ring main travels around the kitchen, giving outlets wherever you need them, and this is just above the worktop or the countertop. So you put it in a certain way. Now this one has to be capable of taking slightly more heavy duty things like heaters and microwaves and stuff like that. So it's not the same kind of wattage as the ceiling and the ceiling lights. It's not done the same. So if in doubt, I found that I was able to carry out instructions. So I had two people, both of them that I'd met in the music industry, that had been electricians in their former life. Now the first one, who was generally called Mr. Jolly, because he tended to be a little bit down, not terribly positive. Now if I called him in the beginning, I called him a couple of times and then I stopped, because if I called him and said, I'm fitting a ring main, and you're fitting it yourself? Horror of horrors. Yes, and I'm wondering, well, okay, you know that you can cause a fire, and you can do this and you can do that. You can get electrocuted and thrown across the room if you touch a live wire. Okay. And then I had another man, and Tony allowed me to be successful at what I did. And if I asked him how to do something, he would tell me how to do it. You must be sure to do this, you must safeguard that. And everything that I did, I would do up to the point that it went into the breaker unit. Now, once I did that, I would get him to come check the work and do the final step, and I never had any problems. So if you remember that as some kind of a formula, it will keep you aware of what's happening when you ask someone for their advice. Do you think I should do this? And the person will tell you, based on his own experience, of whether a project has been winnable or losable. And you have to keep that in mind. That brings us back to being out of someone else's comfort zone, where they are comfortable seeing you. And however you've been appearing to that person is how they will perceive it. That's their perception of you. So if you're, as I was about to give you an example of, if you're a jeans and t-shirt guy, and that's how they've always seen you, they're not going to be ready for you to be different to that. Now, as my business in the contracting started to improve, I actually started to employ people, and that made me, to a greater or lesser extent, the boss. I worked for one particular man who really helped me, and when I needed to go to the bank, he told me how to approach the bank manager, how to show him where my business was going, and why I needed to have an overdraft so that I could do jobs which actually I didn't have the finance to do until I was paid. And he told me how to do that, how to do a bar chart. Now, I was a jeans and t-shirt guy for him, and he always felt comfortable with me to do that. He would actually say to me, Terence, I want you to go to this person. I want you to go to this person who is running, in one particular case, a print company. And I bought the company. He has become a junior partner, and I want to remodel the work area. He is going to want to spend $15,000, and I want you to do a $10,000, or in that case, £10,000 remodel. So I would go along there, and this man would trust me to bring in sufficient remodeling design to justify 10,000, and yet please this other man who actually wanted to spend 50% more. And everything went very well. I went to the bank. I was able to negotiate with this advice that he had given me. Now, one day he called me and said, can you come in and see me? I want to talk about a job that I have for you. And it just so happened that I was meeting someone before he called me. I had that meeting, and I was dressed. I wasn't in t-shirts and jeans. I was dressed in a dress shirt, collar and tie, and a suit, and a top coat. And of course, I wasn't dirty, and I didn't look like a labourer. And that's when I discovered this thing of you can be outside someone else's comfort zone. So when I went to see him, he ran an office where people advised others on the telephone of what stocks and shares were rising, falling, and all of that. And it was a multi-million pound concern. So he was a very rich man. And when I walked in the door, at first he didn't recognize me. And then he looked again and he saw someone, in his perception, he saw someone who looked as if they worked in his office, in office dress. And it kind of visibly shook him for a moment. And he didn't like it. I was outside his comfort zone for me. And it's an interesting example of how other people's perception of you, if it gets upset, they're not happy. Of course, the people that are rooting for you and saying, hey, you can do this, go on, and we're really proud of you, and we're amazed at what you can do, and all of these good things, they're going to be saying, great, wow, you look great. The guy who expects you to be within the comfort zone he has set for you will not. He will say something perhaps negative, kind of dressed up the nines on you. Where you going, a party? And he'll make some comment which is designed, regardless of whether he knows it deliberately, it's designed to bring you back into his comfort zone for you. So you have to be aware of this. If you, and I'll end off here because I'm actually at the job, if you do something which is above what you normally do, get ready for criticism. A little while ago, when things were going very badly for us as a channel, we started to go through some tough times, and people got very interested in seeing how that would work out, because people were writing to me and saying, Terence, you can't win. You can't win this. You're going to go to prison. And this was for, ironically, isn't it? This was for helping people who were in desperate need, who were homeless, who needed hospital or needed some desperate thing. And I helped them without having a license. And that's what it was all about. So, we got an increase in the traffic to our channel. And I remember saying on one video, for those of you who have been supporting us all along, get ready for the attacks on us. We are going to be attacked, because success comes with its haters in proportion to what you're doing. So if you're down here and you're doing something, as you get bigger, the haters will step up, and they'll step up what they're trying to do against you, which is what happened to us. Ironically, all of what was done against us in trying to bring us down sent thousands of people to our channel. So actually, I should make this a tribute to the trolls, because you pushed thousands of people to our door, and they came expecting things to be how you said we were, but actually we were as we are, and what you see is what you get. So back to the idea of how do you do something which is outside of everyone's comfort zone for you. How do you do it? Well, to a certain extent, you close your ears and you understand that as you overstep, as you outstep, as you outplay, outwork, outlive those who have you fixed at a certain level, you will come in for a load of crap. Get used to it, learn to adapt to it, learn to grow strong from it. And now that I'm here, I can end this, and I thank you for being with me.